Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Perspective, a show where we tackle paranormal and supernatural claims, belief in aliens, conspiracy theories, and pretty much any other claim under the sun. If you want to talk to us, give us a call, 951-364-2430. Richard, how you doing?
Hello. I'm very good. I'm always very good when I'm doing this show.
Well,
One of my favorite things to do in the world.
this is
Not even lying.
That's cool. That something I was able to create is one of your favorite things to do. That makes me very happy.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to it.
I am counting on you for this episode because I am tired. I'm a little bit scatterbrained right now, so I'll need you to do most of the talking.
That's never a problem.
And I got to save my voice. I'll be at Faithless Forum this weekend. Cannot wait. I wish you were going to Faithless Forum as well.
So do I. Unfortunately, it's not on the cards for a while yet. So one day.
Yeah. So, real quick, what do you got going on in your channel before we jump into calls?
I just had the first year celebration of my channel a couple of weeks ago. That was fantastic. Lots of wonderful people on there doing different things. Don't need to know about me. Let's jump into the show.
Well, I was trying to. I want this this last one to get screened real quick before we jump into.
Oh, so you want me to talk? Is that what you're saying?
Talk for a minute. Yes.
Okay. So what have we got going on? I've got quite a lot of things going on actually on my channel. We've got my channel. We do Skeptic Hangout, of course, with Laura McGee and Richard Gill, which we talk about many different subjects with skepticism. I'm doing the non-profits occasionally. I'm doing International Freethinkers. We've just started a new parenting program on there, which is going to be monthly. So yeah, I've got lots and lots of things going on, which means because most of them are kind of international affairs like this one, lots of late nights. But I love it. I love it.
What time is it by you?
It's 1 a.m.
1 a.m. Oh, well, I appreciate the dedication. You ready to do this? I love it.
Yes, absolute joy. Let's jump in.
Okay. So our first caller has experiences with a ghost and the paranormal. Please, Chuck from Ohio, you're on with Richard and Ethan. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you guys?
Doing very good today.
Very good, thanks.
So you've got a ghost story for us.
Good. Yes, sir. I have a lot actually from when I was a little kid to well now I guess. But I have one like big story, I guess. That's kind of my go-to.
Yes.
I figured that'd be the story that I shared this evening.
Yes, absolutely. Give us your best one.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so I'll just start with that, I guess. I tend to get bogged down by like details, so if that's annoying, just let me know. I'll try to not do that.
Okay, try to keep it to the most relevant and important details.
Yep, absolutely. I like that. All right, so basically this story happened. It's like a year and a half long of stories, if that makes sense. And it started in July of 2014 when my girlfriend at the time, we are no longer together, but at the time we moved in together.
Okay.
And so basically we moved in July 2014. Cool. And she has 3 kids, which is relevant to the story. And they were, I believe, 9, 8, and 6, like 2 years apart from 2 to 10, or from 6 to 10. So we moved in July 2014, and everything's cool. And then about the second or third day that we lived together, I got up, I went to take a shower, and as I got out of the shower, the room was steamed, and on the mirror it said, well, the mirror, I guess how steamed mirrors show up after you shower. There was writing on that mirror, and it was just a bunch of vague writing you couldn't really see, except for the last word was Christmas. So it was like,
you say Christmas?
Writing Christmas. Yes.
Okay.
Like the word Christmas in July. So like, whatever. It's a dirty mirror, I guess. I don't know. I clean the mirror. Don't think much of it. The next day, the exact same thing happens again after I shower. And so it's like, that's really weird. No one was in there. Why is this happening? I continued to clean the mirror, and then it eventually stops. So whatever. That's not really a ghost thing, I guess, but it's what kind of started this. And then we, throughout the next 2 months, we hear noises, we hear like weird things, whatever. And then in September of 2014, at right around 4 a.m. on a Saturday morning, I wake up, it's still dark, and I look up, and between the bed and the TV, there was a woman in a white nightgown with black frizzy hair just staring at me. I'm like, so I see that, and it's like, it's very stereotypical. See through it. The show Friends is on the TV. I can see the show Friends.
I love Friends.
Woman. Yeah, it's a great show. I still watch it to this day. But yeah, there was a ghost in between me and Friends, and she was just like staring at me. And I was like, oh, that's a nope. So I just like put my head back down, closed my eyes. Like, I did not just see that. And for all experiences that I've ever had, it's been generally like noises and feelings. This is the first time that I saw like an actual apparition. And I just snoped it away. Put my head down, close my eyes.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So for when the Christmas in the mirror, isn't it possible that was just someone else in the house writing it?
No, because it was a very small bathroom, and I would have known if somebody else was in there. And it happened like multiple times. Like I'd take a shower, I'd get out of the shower, and it'd be on the mirror. And I'm the kind of person, especially when there were kids in the house, my door was locked because I don't want to be that guy because they were my kids. So
right.
So no. My door was always locked. Even now, I'm married now with just me and my wife in my house. I still lock the door when I shower. So no, there was no way it was somebody else in the house. It could have been a dirty mirror. I don't know how that worked.
Okay.
Like my first assumption when it first happened was it was just a dirty mirror from the previous residents of the house. But it happened for like a week straight, and I would clean the mirror like vigorously right after because it's weird. But so I don't know if that has anything to do with the ghost or not, but it's just something that kind of sticks with me when I tell this story, if that makes sense.
Are you open to the possibility that it might be a naturalistic explanation?
Sure. Absolutely. And it could have been just, a dirty mirror for all I know.
Right. So considering that you're open to it being just a dirty mirror, let's accept it as a dirty mirror until we've got evidence otherwise. Because I think this mirror thing seems to have kind of primed you for other things that may have gone on in that house, and you're thinking back to that and putting more importance onto it than there actually is. Because we know that there can be dirty mirrors. You accept yourself it may have just been a dirty mirror. So let's until we have anything further, let's leave it as a dirty mirror. And as interesting as it is, just put that aside for a moment. The more interesting thing to me was the lady you saw on two counts. Firstly, because I've had almost exactly the same experience.
Really?
And secondly, yeah, but I don't think it was a ghost. And secondly, was the fact that you attributed ghost to it. That you said, and I saw a ghost. When in actual fact, what you had was this experience. So you're attributing characteristics to this experience. So I'll give you a quick rundown of my experience. I woke up one morning, very tired, around the same time, actually. It may have been a little bit later because the sun was just coming up. The play of light on the curtains, I literally saw in front of me two different aged Victorian girls manifest themselves. Like literally Victorian dress as the classic, exactly like you said, what you'd expect the classic image to be. But as I kind of woke up more and became like cognitive of what happening, I realized that it was just the play of light. It was the way the curtains were stood. It was the play of light on the curtains. And it was my mind, like, trying to make sense of it. And that was like, I literally saw these people manifest in front of me. And I don't for one second believe that was a ghost, because I was kind of cognizant enough to recognize what was happening while it was happening. But I can 100% say that had I been that way inclined and been primed and believing in ghosts, that I would to this day be going round saying I saw 2 Victorian girls in my room. 100%, I have no doubt about that, because they literally took on the form. So I think our minds are really, really bad at recognizing things when things happen, especially when we're in states of waking up, or in states like when we're primed, if we've got some adrenaline rushing. There's things that go on in our minds where we can't quite make sense of the world. Right. And I'm really interested in your perspective as to why you have attributed ghost to it, rather than it just being your mind playing a trick on you.
No, sure, absolutely. And that actually is a very great point. Your mind is a very powerful thing, even to the point to where I'm a paranoid person. And just last night at 3 a.m., I woke up and I heard noises downstairs. I'm like, oh, somebody's probably breaking in. And so I have security cameras like around my house, since I pulled those up. And I saw like a dude walking around the front yard. But it was 3 a.m. It was dark. It wasn't a dude walking around the front yard. That was just my mind playing tricks on me, and I knew that at that time. And so your mind is a very powerful thing,
right?
And because of that, I do believe that a lot of ghost sightings or a lot of ghost experiences aren't that. A lot of people think they see things, but this is different. This story is different because I understand that. And the things that followed kind of helps and reinforce it, if that makes sense.
Did the things that follow not come from that, though? Was that not a primer, like the mirror thing? Have you heard of the
thing was before this? So
yeah, have you heard of the saying?
The mirror thing is just kind of.
So, sorry, there is a delay, so sometimes we unintentionally talk over each other.
Yeah, go on.
No
Please
problem.
continue.
Absolutely. So, so with this experience, it was just, I woke up and I saw that, and I looked at it, and I saw the outline of the face, the hair, the gown. And at this point, I was probably right around 28 years old, 27 maybe. And I've had a lot of experiences before that. So that was my first apparition, if that makes sense. I was like, no, I'm not looking at that right now. Put my head down. And then about, 5 minutes later, I looked back up and she was still there, just staring. So I'm like, nope. So I put my head back down. And so now the next morning, it's a Saturday morning. I go to work because I work at a retail store in loss prevention. Mm-hmm. And I go to work early in the morning, and here's where it kind of gets crazy, validated, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
But I'm telling my coworker, her name's Andy, and I just told her what I told you guys. I woke up, Friends was on the TV, this apparition was in between us. It was crazy, it was scary. I'm explaining it to her, and as I'm telling her this story, I swear to God, this exact same time, which is probably right around 8 a.m. at this point, my then girlfriend calls me, and she's like, dude, I was just in the hallway bathroom, and as I was doing my hair and makeup to get ready to go to work, in the corner of my eye, I saw a lady with black hair walk past the door. And I looked out to see who it was, and there was nobody there. And now, mind you, I did not tell my girlfriend what I just told you guys at this point, because she was still asleep when I went to work early in the morning. And I just didn't tell her. I didn't text her. Didn't talk to her before that. I told my coworker. And then my girlfriend at the time is telling me she just saw what I saw 5 hours prior. And,
can you be sure you didn't tell your girlfriend? Because
I still have those text messages to prove that.
But you said you woke up and you saw this.
Tell my girlfriend because she was still asleep.
You said you woke up and you saw this apparition and then you went straight back to sleep. Is there not a chance that you, especially given the nature of what happened to you, is there not a chance that you could have woken your girlfriend and told her and completely forgot that you'd done that? Just I'm not saying you can definitely did. I'm saying, is there not a chance that you did that? You've already told us in the story that you woke up and you went straight back to sleep. So surely there's in that state of kind of drowsiness, there's a chance, given the nature of the experience, there's a chance that you did that.
Nope, there is no chance because I remember how this story plays out. And so I told my coworker, and as I told my coworker, my girlfriend at the time called me, told me that story. So I was like, holy cow, I just had that same experience, 4 hours, 5 hours ago in the middle of the night. And, so I saw the exact same thing a few hours ago. And she was like, no way. And so that's how, that kind of plays out, was when she told me what she saw, I told her I saw the exact same thing in the middle of the night prior.
So you've seen...
And my coworker, Andy, was there.
So you've been seeing stuff pretty much a large portion of your life.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I don't know where to go with this one.
But that was like the first time. Nope, that's fine. And there's still a lot of stories like with that experience that happened. That was a year and a half long. We lived together from July 2014 through October of 2015, and in that whole time, so that was like the big thing was I saw it, and then she saw it like the same day, and then after that there were a ton of watching lights turn on and off by themselves. It wasn't that big of a house. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, but it was a master bathroom and then a hallway bathroom, but it was still small, no basement, no upstairs. And there are multiple times where me and her friends who would come over, we would see lights turn on and off. We would hear bangings in the middle of the night. And then there's another thing that was kind of weird that I'd never really experienced since. It was just in this house. But like I'd wake up early in the morning and I would hear talking. Like I could hear people talking into my ear. And
audio
consciousness, it would stop.
Audio illusions are pretty well documented.
Yep, absolutely.
There's nothing that necessarily supernatural about that. There's nothing necessarily supernatural about that. That's
and I agree with that. That's something I never really took into account as a paranormal thing until later, where I'd hear other people's ghost stories and they would talk about that same thing. But it did happen in that house and nowhere else. So that's whatever. It is what it is.
Did you move into
a bunch of different?
Well, I was going to say,
go ahead,
please.
No, you go.
No. I was just going to say we do have a bunch of calls. We got to wrap up in a moment. So, Richard, what else did you have?
I just wanted to know before we go, did you move into the house together, or did she move into the house after you, or did you move into the house?
Nope, we moved into the house together, and we moved out of the house together. That was the thing.
Okay.
We only lived in that house together. It was that's how that went down.
Okay, cheers. Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
All right.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, Chuck, thank you so much for calling in. We would love to invite you back to call in again. The show's every Tuesday, and we could hear more of your stories.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot. That was a great time.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks, Chuck. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a good
crap. Sometimes I cut it off too early. Dude, I love
interesting call.
Yes.
Yeah, that I mean, Chuck was a nice guy, genuine, obviously sincere in what he believed, but it's kind of the classical ghost story, not too much out of the ordinary, unfortunately. We know mirrors can get dirty. We know people can have visual and audio hallucinations,
especially when waking or falling asleep.
Yeah. No, I've had that. I've had both visual and audio hallucinations myself. Everybody has. We have them on a kind of weekly basis as human beings, because that's how our brains work. We just forget about most of them because they're not in that kind of primed area where they seem out of the ordinary.
I do see stuff, but I've never so much as seen like a full-on apparition of like a girl or a freaky ghost.
Yeah, it's
I think
interesting.
if I actually saw something like that, I would be genuinely freaked out.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
I want to, though. Like, I want to go to some of these more haunted places in Illinois and spend the night and try and see what's going on here and see if, I can actually see a ghost.
Yeah, I used to be a resident skeptic on a ghost hunting team, so I've done the whole shebang with that. Never seen anything, unfortunately.
Oh, that's a shame.
Sad.
All right, you ready to get to our next caller?
Yeah, definitely. Let's go.
All right, this one's from Illinois, like myself. Former Catholic, now Satanist view. I hope I'm reading that right. View on the afterlife. Kate, you are on with Ethan and Richard. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
I am doing very good, thank you.
Yeah, very well, thank you.
So you used to be a Catholic and now you're a Satanist?
Yeah. I raised Catholic, pretty strict Roman Catholic on both sides of my family. And when I was 18, I left the church, roamed around as an atheist for a while, and just a couple years ago, found myself really drawn to the Satanic Temple. So,
which Satanic Temple? Is it the Church of
the Satanic Temple that's not the Church of Satan, that's Levian Satanism. Lucian Greaves is the spokesperson for the Satanic
dude, that
Temple.
dude's awesome.
Yeah, I know, right? I love him.
Yeah, same. He's an intense dude, but he's really smart.
He's very well written, well spoken.
Yes.
He's a very smart individual, and he is making some great strides in modern day Satanism. So
absolutely. So for the record, though, just for everybody listening, just Satanists don't actually believe in the devil or anything supernatural. Is that accurate?
Correct. Well, yes. And Satan and the devil are actually two completely different entities or deities in the Bible. Satan is, to us, Satan is the embodiment of the rebel against all tyranny. He is the one who, like, if we were going to put him in the Bible, when God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, Satan stood up and said, yo, bit much, bro. Like, maybe we want to simmer down. So he's the one who kind of just brings checks and balances to ultimate power, I guess.
So then,
and that's who we,
it said you wanted to talk about the afterlife. Do you believe there is an afterlife?
The term afterlife is a pretty broad term, but I believe that if there is an afterlife, it begins when we are reborn, when our soul or consciousness is reassigned to a new human vessel. As far as our memory or cognitive awareness of such, that dies with our human brain when we die. I do believe that, the science is telling us that when a person dies, they lose 6 to 8 ounces of weight, of matter. It has to go somewhere. And I like Tesla's theory that we are all, atoms, that we all have a nucleus, we all have electrons and protons that make up who we are. And maybe upon death, it's like our own version of fission.
So if
some of us goes and becomes the Northern Lights, or as far as being consciously aware of what we do after death, no, I don't believe in that.
Okay, so you do believe in a supernatural soul. Is that accurate?
Yes, I do.
Okay. If we're losing, and I don't know whether that's true or not, but if we're losing weight, then that would mean that the soul is weighted and we should be able to find it in the human body, correct?
correct. That's what one would think. There's been several studies, people who have signed up for this particular subject to see if what happens at the exact moment the human body gives out and dies. And in several of the clinical trials, which they went on years ago, it was 6 to 8, sometimes 10 ounces of just weight that disappeared from the human body, and the doctors are baffled. They don't know where it goes.
As far as I'm aware, the human body, there is not a moment where the human body dies. Death is a process. And sometimes it's very kind of difficult, even for the experts, to kind of nail that point at which that person has passed on. But I'm more interested, rather than the weight thing, I'm more interested in what you think the mechanism of this thing passing on is, and more importantly for me, why it has to be a soul, because there are religions out there that believe that in rebirth that don't believe in a soul. So first of all, what do you think the soul is? And why do you think the soul is reborn? And then what do you think the mechanism is of that?
That's a very good question. Like a lot of interesting things or very effective things in life, there's, theories are just that, but electricity itself is a theory. Yet here we all are. High voltage linemen will admit to you that they don't know how it works or why it works. They just know that it does. So in my opinion, I think soul is a religious term. Consciousness is what science is using for it. And it's kind of the way that they're bridging the gap between science and religion.
But a soul and consciousness aren't the same thing.
Really bad word.
A soul and consciousness on the same kind of, they're not weighed in the same way. We know relatively about a consciousness. We don't have all the answers, but we have, it's quite a well studied area. Whereas the soul is, and there are lots of different concepts about it. There are lots of different ideas about it. As I've said, some religions don't even believe there is a soul as such. So it's not on an equal footing. It's not like there is consciousness here and soul here, and then there's kind of a bridge between them. Sorry, I just wanted your opinion on that.
But no, in my opinion, they're the same thing.
Why?
So why, why do you think there's more than, is it just the weight of this study you're talking about, the weight change after death, that has convinced you a soul exists? Or what other reasons do you have to believe that one exists?
That's a good question too. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with when you, over the years, I've met people or had encounters with people that can't be explained. And other than, I must have known them in a previous life or something along those lines. It wasn't until about 2 years ago that I ever put any thought into like actual past lives. And, a situation occurred where someone hit me with some information out of nowhere, and I had a very strong vision, hallucination, whatever you'd like to call it. And without any leading information from this person, I nailed exactly where he thought he knew me from. And that was really interesting to me. And that really, I think, kind of put me on the track of, okay, there has to be something to this. Because growing up, everyone always told me I had an old soul or whatever. I've always had experiences with the paranormal. They were never paranormal to me. Communicating with the dead and that kind of stuff, I don't set out to do that. But when it's necessary, they do communicate with me. and it's not very often.
Oh, this is going in
but-
a whole nother direction.
Yeah, I'm getting really excited there.
That's why I had a hard time. I know. Well, I'm sorry, and that's why I had a hard time narrowing down where to go with what subject or whatever. I had my first experience when I was 4, and I never, even though, I told my mom this is what happened, and she said, no, it didn't. Like, you were there, and I told you when it happened, and she gave me those mom eyes where they basically say your full name with just their eyes, and I'm like, she's, no, you didn't. I'm like, bullcrap. I remember telling you, and it was, I never doubted myself, and throughout my very young years, a couple more things happened, and I've always just kind of been tuned in.
May I ask a question?
I hate to be so vague. Yes, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So, so for me, I want my beliefs to conform to reality as best as possible. And therefore, I want anything I believe to be testable. So with some of the claims you're making, can any of them be tested? And how could we go about doing that? Like, how could we accurately test you communicating with the dead? Like, can you communicate with someone right now for me? How does it work?
That's a good question. I haven't had any communications come through in a while, but since COVID, I kind of shut that part off. The internet and the tension in the country really did a number on people who operate on this kind of frequency. It was really hard to see the forest through the trees, so I kind of shut that part off. Some of the things I do have, a lot of my communication actually is done through Messenger, and I keep them all. So I had a case of a young woman who contacted me. She wanted to know if I could speak to her brother, and I said, "Well, I can teach you. I don't conjure. I don't believe in that."
Can I interrupt just one second? Do you mind if I interrupt? Sorry, rather than giving us kind of an anecdotal account, and I don't wish to appear rude. It's not that I'm not interested, but I want to get to the kind of, as we're saying, Yorkshire meat and tatties of it. I want to like look at the mechanisms as to how it works, as rather than the stories of what has happened while you're doing it. I want to look at the mechanisms to see if we can like spot flaws in thinking or flaws in epistemology as to what's happening. For example, when you were talking about your stories from the childhood, we know that like memory anyway is not particularly good, and especially early childhood memory is really unreliable. Exactly. So we can cast a doubt onto. I'm not disputing that you've had those that you truly believe in those experiences. I'm not calling you a liar. I genuinely believe you think you've had those experiences, but we can't as Ethan was asking about, can we test it? That's not a reliable test just to say, well, I am sure that I remember, because lots of people are sure that they remember things and then they're later shown to be incorrect. So let's dig into the mechanism of how this thing works and like see if we can unravel how it works rather than having an anecdotal account of what's happened during it working.
So I guess to summarize what Richard's saying is like, how can we test any of this? Is that accurate, Richard?
That's a very quick way of saying what I've just said in 3 minutes.
Like, okay, how could we test whether a soul's real or not, or whether you are, communicating with the dead? Like, because to me, what would convince me is if your way of communicating with the dead was equivalent to like a radio station, where it's just clear, concise, and consistently back and forth. Does it work like that?
It doesn't. It really doesn't. And sometimes it's an all around kind of feeling situation. That's the only way I can really provide any sort of evidence is with the anecdotes and the stories, and
but anecdotes aren't evidence.
The stranger's side.
An anecdote
No,
isn't
they're
an
not.
evidence. We know, for example, we know that, and again, I'm not suggesting this is you by any means, so please don't think I am, but we know that people can lie. We know people can be convinced of things that aren't true. So with both of those things, that discounts anecdotes of being evidence. So other than kind of an anecdote or personal experience, which we know can be flawed because we've got bad brains and we're not particularly good at remembering things accurately, what is there that there must be something there other than these things that we know are unreliable that convinces you that this is true? And what is it that convinces you that it is true? What kind of mechanism is there that we can get into and unravel and investigate?
I really don't think I can answer that, honestly. Because
so if you can't answer that, why do you believe it?
Set out to do.
Why is it that you're convinced by it if the only things that convince you are things that we know are unreliable? Isn't it possible that what you actually think you're experiencing isn't the case?
I would say that if I didn't have a record of it with timestamps and literally no way for me to know this information that I give people when they come to me for answers. And as far as, I mean, I know when to get involved because of how my body responds. When I was 4, my grandfather died. I didn't know he had died. I felt a door slam kind of feeling in my chest, like a percussion. And it went all the way through my body. I looked at my mother and said, "Grandpa's gone." And she looked at me like I was weird because 4-year-olds are weird. And she, I specifically remember it. I have brought it up since then. 35 minutes later, we get a phone call that my grandfather had died. I didn't know what death was.
I'm sorry.
I didn't think anything of it until I saw the response of my aunt when she came over in tears. Grandpa, Art's dead, Art's dead. So 7 months later, when I felt the door slam in my chest again, all I could do was sob. I didn't know who it was, but I knew somebody had died. It was my other grandfather.
If I could interject real quick, are you able to do this for us, like a reading for either me or him, or communicate with someone from the dead? If there's someone I'm thinking of, could you communicate with them?
I honestly don't know on the spot or being asked. I've never done it that way before.
Okay.
It would be a experiment for both sides, I guess.
Well, we do have to wrap up in a moment, but I would maybe think it over and let me know. I know you and I are connected on Messenger. Whether it be privately or, it can be recorded. If you're able to do that, there is someone I would like you to communicate with, if you're open to that.
Sure.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Richard.
I would love to.
Just before you go, thank you for calling in. And I'm sorry for pushing you, but I'm pushing you because I'm really interested. And you're the kind of person who I would love to call back in every single time I'm on and go down another route with you, because you've got so much interesting stuff to say. And I'm really interested. So I don't want to seem like I was coming at you heavy. That was only because I want to get into these things because I'm really interested in what you've got to say.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I appreciate all the time you guys have given me. I wish I could have had better answers when it came to that. That was one of the things I've been
not knowing is not a problem.
Prove that these things are real, and the only way I can do it is through a digital record at this point. But yeah, I'm definitely got my brain going now and how I can prove this in the moment, I guess, is
think
I'm looking for.
more about that, how it can be proven and tested. And I would love to, hear back from you or follow back up with you, if that's okay.
I appreciate that very much. And yes, definitely. I will definitely call in again.
Awesome. Kate, thank you so much for your time today.
Get a hold of you through Facebook.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm enjoying your show immensely.
Well, good. I'm happy to hear that. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you. You too.
I love when the calls are pleasant and they're friendly and you can, push back and challenge people and they don't get upset with it. Ameet Mathew says, Ethan, has anyone taken you up on an offer to do a reading seance? No. So I am actually working on something. Keep your fingers crossed, but I am trying to do my own version of, and it won't be $1 million, so don't get your hopes up. But I am trying to put together the James Randi Educational Foundation $1 Million Challenge. I am trying to put that together right now. Obviously, again, won't be $1 million. I'm a small YouTuber, not a big one, but I am working with someone to see if we can secure the funds to make sure they're available and start putting word out there and challenging people to see, especially psychics specifically. The thing I'm going to challenge and offer this money up for is if any psychic or medium out there can communicate in the unique language that my brothers and I have established, whether it be through saying words we've used or creating a new word that we would use in our lingo, that's all accepted. But I would love to be able to give that prize money out to someone who could prove they could communicate with the dead. So I am working on that, and hopefully I'll have that started at some point soon. Cool. Ready for our next caller?
Yeah, let's jump in.
Okay, so this one's from Missouri. Something weird happened in the sky in 1988. Christine, you are on with Richard and Ethan. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. So, what do you got for us?
Curious story, n equals 1. So this is definitely something that only happened one time and is curious. So in 1988, I was out of high school. I had a friend who was on leave from the Army, and we were sitting in my parents' home in Angus, New Mexico, and we're sitting there talking. All the lights to my parents' mobile home go out. And at this point, I've been working as an electrician with my father. So I knew because everything went out in the trailer that maybe it was at the main power supply at a pole outside the trailer. So my friend and I, we get up and I go out. Main electrical is not going out. And I had this feeling that something was watching us. And I looked over, and in the sky was a perfect orb. But it was bigger than an orb, but it had the very bottom of a spherical shape, was completely jet black. And I could see through the top of this orb, and it was a person, I'm assuming human, maybe alien, I don't know. But it had like a gas mask on or some type of headgear. And it was just sitting there hovering in the sky, 200, 300 feet away, staring at us. So I told my friend, I said, hey, I'm going to go in and grab my father's binoculars. So I run back in, go to my parents' bedroom, grab my dad's binoculars. And so I go running out and I pull up my binoculars to get a really good look in this orb. I can't find it. And I asked my friend, I said, Paul, what happened? He goes, I don't know. It just disappeared. I'm like, it just disappeared. He goes, yeah, 1 minute it was there and the next second was gone. And then all the power to the mobile home completely went back on when it disappeared.
Could this
that's
have
the
been?
story.
I'm going to jump in straight away with this. Could this be just a
Okay.
conventional aircraft? Could it be a conventional aircraft? Because you said you weren't, you couldn't identify whether the pilot was a human or something else. Could it not just be a conventional
No, it's
aircraft
awesome.
from a? Sorry.
I thought maybe in 1988, Paul and I, that was the gentleman's name, that it might have been a helicopter, but it was too close, and you can hear the rotors on a helicopter. And an airplane, at least back then, we didn't have the stealth bombers, didn't have anything that could just sit there and hover. So it was completely quiet and no sound, and it was a perfect sphere. It was a perfect bubble. So the top of it's like a soap bubble, but you could see all the way through the top, but the very bottom of it was complete black. It was like a one cockpit bubble.
But you said it was
a bubble. It had absolutely no sound. Yeah.
You did say it was some distance away, and from certain angles, there are certain makes of helicopter that can look spherical. The cockpit section of them is actually kind of bubble shaped with black bottoms and a clear top. And depending on the distance, you may not have heard any sound.
Yeah, but this is a military. Yeah, no. I was with a military person who was in the military on leave, and we both agreed it wasn't a helicopter. And that, again, was 1988. Technology has changed a lot, I would say. It was also really close to Angus, New Mexico is not too far from Holloman Air Force Base. And for years, I often wonder if it was some type of secret technology that our own United States military had, but nothing of the sort had ever come out since 1980, anything closely like it. And this is the days before we knew the stealth bomber. And so those kept being identified in Area 51 potentially as UFOs. And I didn't know anything about UFOs until in the mid to late 2000s, early 2000s, because I wasn't interested. But I mean, it could have been a helicopter, but we sat there and talked, and it didn't go vertical, didn't go sideways, it didn't pull up straight. It just vanished with the flick of my wrist trying to pull up the binoculars to get a better look. But I still can see in my mind's eye, I know it's not a good one, but it did look like it had a gas mask, or what you might see an F-14 fighter pilot from like Top Gun with that type of equipment on their head. It looks sort of like that, but yet it was different. I know it's not very good discussion.
So let's look at what the actual facts of what we have then. So we have something in the sky which could contain a human, which is near a military base,
right?
Which is wearing apparatus which we know the military wear. So what is it that kind of makes you think that it's not a military aircraft? Because everything you're saying just points to some kind of military aircraft. What specifically is it about it that makes you think it's
military, not? It could be military, but it's unlike anything that anybody's reported in the news or in debriefings or anything of this nature. So I'm just saying it's not a technology that I'm acquainted with. And one of my other friends I've talked to that was retired from NATO, he also can't think of anything that it might also be like when I talk to him. So again, who knows? I mean, really, I don't know. It was
military.
Curious,
Military personnel aren't always don't always have clearance to know everything that's going on. Just because somebody works in the military, it doesn't. I mean, I'm not going to name them, but there's one of the regular shows of this very show has military clearance, and there are things that they will know that many other people in the military don't. Just because you don't know something and you work in the military doesn't mean that it's not a military thing that's going off, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is 35 years ago, and I mean, they've had a lot of declassified stuff from the Pentagon from 35 years ago. I mean, so this was quite a while ago. I mean, you're absolutely right with clearance and what is being shared or not shared, but it is kind of curious that 35 years later, nothing of this, whatever this was, has leaked or been discussed.
It could be just simply be the case that it wasn't an interesting enough object to have leaked. It may just be a standard object that was misidentified.
It's possible.
That's good to hear.
But I did sketch it, and I did, yeah.
I'm loving the fact that you're so open to the possibility.
And there was, I'm sorry?
I'm just going to say I'm loving the fact that you're so open to the possibility that it could be just a standard thing.
Same.
And that says a lot about you as a person, that you're willing to, be open to that. I think that's fantastic. I'm very interested in why, when you are open to that, why you're kind of making this leap from standard to possibly something else. That's what's really interesting me about you. Now, you're such a nice person. I'm loving the conversation. Thank you for the conversation.
Well, one of the things I just want to say, one thing is that the reason my friend and I went outside of the trailer was all the power was out. And as soon as I flipped up the binoculars, it disappeared, and the power in the entire neighborhood came on, which, again, top secret stuff potentially, but it is curious that the power in the trailer went out and all the neighborhood, all the power went out. My parents' place set up on a hill, so I could look horizontally into this thing. So it was also just a number of weird coincidences all at the same time, which made it a curious thing. It was also weird that this person or whatever was in it was sitting there intentionally staring at us intensely and hung around long enough and then didn't disappear till I brought up my binoculars to get a really good look into that. We'll call it the cockpit, for lack of a better word, but into the cockpit.
There's just one detail I'm not entirely sure of. When the power went out and you went outside, was the vehicle already there when you actually went outside, or did it come along after you'd gone out?
Now the power went out. We were sitting in the living room chatting about stuff. All the power went out, and so I knew because everything went out all at once because I had electrical training. I worked as an electrician with my father. My dad was a very logical person and also had been a police officer, so trained me to be super logical. But anyway, I went outside to check the main power switch that was on a pole coming into the trailer, and I noticed all this stuff was out, and I was looking at the fuse box has an old tile and toggle switch. So I was looking at that, and I sensed something was staring at me, and that's when I looked over across the hill, down a little bit into something staring at me. And I was like, Paul, do you see that? He goes, yeah, I see that. I go, what is that? And we're staring at this round orb in the sky, hovering, and it was close enough that I can make an outline of this thing with like a gas mask on and some type of maybe goggles or something over the eyes staring at us. And I'm like, I'm going to go get the binoculars. What is that? So I ran back in. Lights are still off. I am fumbling to find my dad's binoculars. He usually kept them. He's also a backyard astronomer, and he has his own observatory. That's why we lived in New Mexico, to look at the night skies, because he was really into nebulas and things like this. So anyway, I find his binoculars, and I go back out, and when I flick my wrist up to look into that cockpit, it just vanishes. I can't find it in my binoculars, and I asked Paul, I said, what happened? He goes, it just disappeared. I mean, what do you mean it just disappeared? He's like, it just disappeared. And then we both realized the lights had gone back on.
So, go on, Ethan, sorry.
No, please.
I was just, the object disappeared. You didn't actually see it disappear. But the object disappeared.
I did not see it disappear because I was trying to look into the cockpit with my binoculars. And as you know, if you ever use binoculars, it takes a minute when you're looking through binoculars to move and look. When I brought him up to look at it, I couldn't find it. And then I brought down my binoculars. I said, I can't find it. Where'd it go? He goes, it just disappeared. I'm like, what do you mean? Did it fly away? Did it go up? Did it go sideways? What did it do? And he said, it just like disappeared. It didn't go anywhere. It just was there 1 second and was gone the next. And it was. And then the power was back on.
Is there a possibility that the power could?
Because I was.
Yeah, is there a possibility that the power could have come on? Is there a possibility that the power could have come on, and the distraction of the power coming on could have made you miss the objects just fly away?
Well, we thought at the time was that when I flicked up the binoculars to look at it, that's when it just disappeared. And then right on the heels of it disappearing, we noticed the power was back on.
Right.
But they happened simultaneously I would say about the same time, but it just disappeared.
Okay.
So what brought us outside was that there was no power, and that's why we went outside to investigate what was going on. Yeah. And as I was at the fuse box on the power pole, what's called a power main, it also has its own breaker in it. All the places in New Mexico have this. It was code back in 1988. But then as I'm standing there looking at that, that's when I sensed something was staring at us, and I like poked Paul with my elbow. I'm like, do you see that? He goes, yeah, what is that? And then we were sitting there talking, staring at this thing as it's staring at us. It really felt like it was staring at us. And I could see whatever this thing was with some type of headgear on it. And the very bottom of the cockpit was like a perfect round sphere with a black bottom with clear glass that was perfectly spherical, like a soap bubble in the night sky. And there was enough ambient light in New Mexico that you could see through like a big round glass orb at the top.
Can I also just ask you, just for the benefit of our previous caller, with you being an electrician, can I just confirm that electricians do understand what electricity is and how it works?
Yeah, I would hope so, because I got high grades and high marks through shop in high school and then worked as my dad's electrician. I mean, back then, I left the electrical world. That wasn't for me, and I went on to do a very different lifestyle in 1990. Actually, in 1989, I go on to college and do something different. But yes, and I still can wire houses, and I can still fix things, and I can still tinker with electronics. So yes.
So
just saying, I can. I know. Yeah.
We do have to wrap up this call in just a moment. Richard, did you have any further questions?
Okay.
No, I'm thank you for calling in. It's been a really interesting call. I think from what you said, if I was to put money on it, and I'd put quite a lot of money on it, that it is some kind of conventional aircraft that you've experienced. And I think the fact that the electricity went out and then came back on at the same time the object disappeared, I think that's not necessarily a causation. The object didn't necessarily cause that. You just experience things, as you said yourself.
Correlation does not equal causation. I get that, but it is curious. Anyway, it is curious.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed listening to your experience, and I do thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
Fantastic conversation.
I appreciate it, and thank you for letting me talk.
Yeah, Christine, thanks for calling, and definitely always welcome to call back. We do the show every single Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Christine. Bye-bye. I'm definitely leaning towards military aircraft.
Yeah. And I'm not even necessarily leaning towards military aircraft. It sounds, as soon as she described it, I thought about one of the, I don't know what, my knowledge of aircraft is very limited. But one of those round Bell helicopters that you used to get, especially in the 80s. And if you look at that from a certain angle, that it looks almost exactly like a sphere.
Right. All right. So this next caller, Richard, specifically wanted him to call back. He called in. He was the first caller last week. He's a skeptical paranormal investigator. Mark, you are on with Richard and Ethan. How are you doing today?
Hello.
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 How's it going, Mark?
Hello. How you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm honoured that Richard wanted to speak to me today. Fellow Brit, so all good.
Well, if I'm honest, I just wanted a familiar accent. That's the only reason I wanted to go.
Could you talk a little bit closer to the mic or a little bit louder, Mark?
Is it quite quiet?
Yeah, it's a little quiet.
Yeah. Should be. Let me just try and pop the other AirPod in a second. Technology these days.
In the meantime, I'd like to thank my top tier patrons of the channel: Cindy PLAZA, Left Right Left, Kenneth Leonard, Skye, Jump and Shoot Oz, Secular Rarity, Philip Leitch, Kaitlyn Beyond, Toast, Richard Gilliver, Sunset, Richard, that one, Sunset Sarge, Ameet Mathew, Ray Sylvester, and Kyle Brewer. Thank you so much for your patronage. Believe it or not, these call-in shows do cost money to run, so consider becoming a patron for just $1 a month. The link is in the description. It really does make a difference, and it allows me to continue to do this show each and every week. All right, you there, Mark?
Hello. Is it working? Am I good?
Yeah, that's a little better. All right, so
Okay, excellent.
Richard, did you want to, since you invited Mark to call back, did you want to start this?
Yeah, I listened to your call last week, and I was very interested in a couple of things that you said, specifically around you being. I don't know if you were playing devil's advocate or not, and I was listening to the call, and there were a couple of things that
I was, yeah.
Yeah. So, what there was some things that you were saying about ghosts and things being scientifically compelling, and I want to go down that avenue with you and why you think that it's compelling. And was there a point when you said it was more compelling than God?
Well, I've obviously not gone into much detail with God because I know how much people can get offended. It was a sort of a throwaway thing where I basically said that, you know, I've had more things happen where I've said move that and it's moved, rather than go in, if there's a God, can you move something? But you know, God doesn't move stuff at will. It was more like that. I'm not suggesting that one or the other necessarily exists. I'm just saying that there is something going on.
So what do you think? What have you seen that is compelling? And I know you're a skeptic, so I'm not like kind of diving in and attacking you here. But what is it that you think is compelling about the things that you've experienced where things have moved?
There's a big turning point for me. So me and my friend started a show called Haunted the Truth, and it was to basically go out and try and debunk as many locations as possible in the most polite manner. And then we were invited to this person's house, and they come up with stories that you know, things being thrown at family members, kids having oranges chucked at them from the orange bowls, running across the top of the not the top of the house, the landing area, you know, etc., etc. I went round there, was like, oh, all right, okay, you know, it could be anything. I'll try and see if it's something. Started off quite quiet, and then there was just things happening which started to get to a point where I was like, well, that hasn't got a rational explanation off the top of my head. It isn't wind, it isn't this, and that. I'll give you a couple of examples. So there was whistling, which was like literally as if I'm doing it in the room with you. There was a door that was locked, and the entire door shook as if somebody was, like, if you imagine you're behind a locked door, that shook. Caught that on camera. There was a couple of knocks and bumps and bangs. Yeah, it's an old house and stuff like that. Expanding walls. I get it. But I've captured a toy coming out of one room through the air at such a force that it just hits this cabinet and smashes on the floor. Another toy on camera sat in the middle of the room, and it starts rocking at an angle 2 or 3 times, and then that goes over. And I took that same toy back on another occasion. It went over again, different place. And with all these, like, there was a camera on a tripod that went over. And I'm just going, well, there's definitely something that's doing this, because, you know, it would be stupid to say there's nothing doing this, because obviously I've just seen it with my own eyes. I got on camera. To, you know, for people that could be watching this, like, I could just say these things and they could say, oh, this is all ramblings of a madman. So for context, you would really need to see the video. But I'm just wondering what is actually going on. Like,
what? Where is the house located?
Part of the skeptic.
Like, I don't mean which area of Britain. I mean, kind of, is it in the middle of the countryside? Is it in a city? Is it next to a what we'd call a motorway? And those crazy Americans call freeways.
It's not. You know, sorry, I said Hillfield, but it's not. That's a different place. It's, you know, Bristol. For Americans, I'm
from like the north, and you're down on the peninsula. No idea.
If you imagine like the city centre, it's sort of suburb, like just outside of the city centre, houses, and you know, you go off and then there's like a little housing estate, that sort of thing. I have actually looked through some of this, because you might be going into like looking at the area, looking at the ground it's on and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. Where you going?
My first thought was actually kind of traffic, because I live about 3 miles away from a motorway, from the M1 motorway, and like stuff falls over in my house all the time, even from that distance, when like there's heavy traffic on the motorway, and that can be early in the morning. It doesn't necessarily have to be like at rush hour.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there is not a motorway within a close proximity to cause vibrations for things to fall over. And if you actually see the manner that some of the stuff does fall over, and the distance that some of these objects have come from, because I get the camera, I go pick that camera up, put it around that corner, make sure there's nobody bloody there. You can see there's a castle in that room, and the distance is full length of like your average UK house room, bedroom, like a master bedroom, comes out straight into the landing and smashes. That there's no, even if there was a motorway nearby, I don't think, you know, 17 trucks going by are going to cause. And I think I would know. I'd be in the house going, okay, that whole place just shook.
Did you check the kind of earthquake records?
Yes, and there was no tremors or anything like that. Nothing else fell in the house, because you would imagine that if in a situation of an earthquake, that something else is going to fall. Especially some of the precarious things that I had in place, they would definitely fall before a toy which is sat amongst a load of other toys on a table, and I'm talking a lot of toys. None of them fell. It literally.
Okay, so
there's no like underground running rail systems or anything either.
On that single point, and I don't want to get pedantic here, but on that single point, I've got a 5-year-old, and I've noticed on many occasions lots of toys being around and one falls over on its own. That's not unusual at all. Let's get off the kind of looking at in like answers for things. And what is your kind of idea as a skeptic about what it might be then, if it's, because earlier I'm sure you mentioned like ghosts and things. So why are you jumping from I can't find a rational explanation to ghost?
No, I believe the only reason that I mentioned the word ghost in the last show is because the questions were really aimed towards ghosts and stuff, and I, like you were saying, was playing devil's advocate to the people that do potentially believe in that type of thing. All I can go off is what I capture and witness in the moment, and what then look over the camera. I do know that and I know in houses this can go off anyway, but I have been in situations in the middle of nowhere with EMS, like strong electrical magnetic fields going off, either before or after an incident. There was a place where I went where a stone hit me, and you know, I put the meter up against this stone and it was going off next to the stone. So I'm going, okay, so this is linked to some degree of high amount of electrical discharge or something like that. So I thought, can electrical discharge somehow, you know, throw a toy across a room, or, you know, knock a door, or manifest some sort of a sound? I'm no expert. I'm clutching at straws, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Do you use kind of? I don't know what words to
forget. We do a Discord after show when it ends. So if you haven't joined my Discord yet, there is a link in the description of the YouTube video. We invite the hosts, producers, and then anyone else listening to come on and chat with us. And that starts 5 minutes after this show ends. Sorry, Richard, go ahead.
Yeah. I've lost my train of thought.
My bad.
No, it's okay. I'll find something. I'll dig in and find something, I'm sure. So, the equipment. Are you using kind of the standard inverted quote things, ghost hunting equipment, or are you using like professional grade like?
Yeah, okay. With the expenses I've got, everything I do is for free. I'm a non-profitable person, so I've only got a K2 meter. I'm aware that those things, you know, could the battery be making them go off? My phone, I know, makes it go off. The only link that I had where I went, that's happening when that's happening, maybe there's some sort of correlation. Other than that, I have no idea how something can just, you know, how things can just seamlessly be happening. I watch a lot of Brian Cox, and I'm open one day, he just says something and I go, yeah, that's it.
Not having an answer is sometimes really frustrating, isn't it?
But
especially when you're faced with people who are like have a heavy belief and they're throwing all these things. What about? Well, what about this? It can be really frustrating.
But it's okay to not have an answer, and it's okay to say I don't know.
It's okay not having an answer, but what I'm not happy with is when people fake stuff, and there's like massive YouTubers out there which are faking stuff and they've got loads of followers, and then there's me who's not faking stuff, and people will then calling me out and going, oh, you rigged that, you faked that, because that's their only answer. Their only answer is, oh, well, it has to be make-believe, it has to be all rigged, it has to be fake. So I'm like, well, I don't actually believe in ghosts, so I don't see what your point is. Like, I'm just capturing something and going, what the hell is this?
So you don't in any way believe in ghosts?
I can't. It would be ignorant of me to turn around and say ghosts exist until.
Sorry, you got quiet again.
Point, you know, I said it would be stupid of me to turn around and say ghosts are real. Without having the evidence to suggest they are. What I can say is the things I've witnessed display the mannerisms of what ghosts are portrayed as within the paranormal media and films and all that sort of thing. So I can understand why people call them ghosts, but until the day something physically manifests in front of me, or something serious happens to the point where I go, that's a ghost, then I'm not going to turn around and say that they are.
I think that can be part of the difficulty, the kind of way that they're portrayed in the media, because if you have a look back over the kind of different, not just in the Western culture, but over different cultures as well, ghosts have changed the way they manifest over time and geographically. And it seems to me that this kind of modern phenomena of what we kind of consider ghost activity now is a product of kind of from like the 19th century onwards and popular media portrayal. So what we're calling like ghost activity. I've been a skeptic on a ghost hunting team. I've felt those weird, like spider webby feelings that people consider to be signs of ghosts. I've no indication whatsoever that that's an actual sign of a ghost. It's just something that has grown up over time.
No. A lot of it is mass hysteria as well.
We only got a couple minutes left. Richard, anything else you wanted to dig into from his call last week?
No, I've really enjoyed talking to you. I'm really, really happy, especially given the ridiculous time it is over here in the UK.
It's like 2 a.m.
the time to call back. I appreciate that.
And can I say, Richard, and anyone else for that matter, if you really want to know what I'm saying, because it's all just words, you need to see the video, and I would love for you to see it, get back to me and be like, I think it's actually this. Now, given some of it is, you could say that, you could say this, but there are points in the video. It's the Poltergeist episodes on my channel, hauntedthetruth.co.uk, and I'd love to see what you have to say, because me just telling the story is not the same as you seeing it yourself with your own eyes.
Right. And you have if you want to just tell us your YouTube channel again for anyone watching if they're interested.
It's hauntedthetruth.co.uk. I'll post it in the chat as well to the actual videos so people don't get confused.
Cool.
Yeah,
post it in the chat. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time out to give us a call.
Yeah, appreciate it.
No worries, guys.
I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Night,
yeah. Wesley, we will take you in the after show. Just give us a moment.
Just before we go, can I just address Neil, the
Sure.
604 Atheist?
Yes.
Because we have, it has been casually mentioned on a couple of occasions about me doing the show. So yeah, we will sort something out. It will come on. We need to talk about Lego above all else, because we're both fans of Lego, which I'm not sure many people know. So we need to do a 604 Atheist show about Lego.
Like Legos?
Lego, yeah, Legos. The Lego company actually calls it Lego. The plural is Lego, not Legos.
No, wait, seriously?
Yeah.
I thought it was Legos.
No, Lego.
Oh.
It means play well.
That doesn't sound right. Legos sounds right. Like I want to play with my Legos, but I want to play with my Lego. That doesn't sound right. I don't think I could change on that one. It's got to be Legos.
Stay skeptical.
Everyone like, subscribe, and join us in the Discord after show. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you very much. I've loved it once more.